dinosaurs. I'm hyping this up a lot, but you know, who likes dinosaurs? Who likes dinosaurs that transform into robots? So please welcome to the stage a huge Transformers fan, Moonbase 2 co-host, and a doctor in paleontology, Mikey, Dr. O'Sullivan.
Trina said I'm Mikey, or Mike, or any of the 15 names I've got. And yeah, I'm one of the co-hosts of Moonbase 2. We're not the oldest Transformers podcast, but I think we're the most continuous. I think we're the longest running without a break. I don't think we're really relevant anymore, but it gives me something to do on a Sunday. I'm going to shill this at the end, I'm associated with Paleo Games.
Oh!
Hey, good start! It's going well, I didn't break anything. I'm associated with Paleo Games, and that is to do with tabletop gaming and tabletop RPGs. I'm going to show that at the end. So yeah, I'm going to preface all this before I tell you what it is, that this is a very opinion-based piece, so feel free to disagree with me about various things and anything else. But yeah, so there's some undeniable truths in our world. Up is up, down is down. Dinosaurs are cool. This is cool. Everyone agree, yeah? Yeah. Robots are cool. This is a good movie, by the way. If you haven't seen this movie, this is a good movie. Dinosaur robots are therefore cooler than either of the two of them. As represented by the coolest dinosaur robot, I don't care what anyone says, it's Mechagodzilla. So, there we go. What I'm going to talk about today is how dinosaurs were viewed in the 80s, where this all started. How that was reflected in how they're designed in Transformers, how that's continued on, and really, how has the portrayal of dinosaurs in Transformers followed trends in paleo media based around, or paleontology rather, so the research and how that's affected the media. A couple of things I'm going to preface now. Like I said, it is opinion-based, so some things I'm going to say here are very much my perspective. Another thing is, I'm going to mention things like the Metrodon, Pteranodon, all those things that if you know anything about dinosaurs, you know they're not dinosaurs, but they're frequently grouped in. I'm not going to pause every 5 seconds to say this isn't a dinosaur butt, so just letting you know. So, there we go. This is what we all grew up on. Certainly if you are like me, a dinosaur yourself. Dinosaurs were portrayed as big, sluggish, and dumb. So these are like very well-known things from the 80s. We've got Baby, I think it's Secret of the Lost Legend or something. Dino Riders, Godzilla. Yes, Godzilla was a dinosaur in 1980. There was a Godzillasaurus. There is actually a Godzillasaurus as well now. And there's a Gojirasaurus. There's a Godzillasaurus and there's a Gojirasaurus. This is Dink, the Last Dinosaur, which was like a cheap rip-off of Land Before Time, Denver, and I think this is from something called Caveman. I've never seen it before. But this was the idea, and naturally, if this is what's in everyone's mind, when we get to Transformers, that's what we see here. So this is the original Diaclone catalog of the Dino Robos. T-Rex Robo, I think, was just Grimlock's original name. And you see the concept art and stuff like that. This is the kind of stuff you were seeing in museums at the time. So we hit Transformers, of course. Can't really talk about dinosaurs and Transformers without the Dinobots. Fundamentally idiotic, might be a polite way of putting it. Very simple designs, very classic design. Everyone's a bit dumpy. Snarl's got this weird tiny head that's never made any sense. Swoop is a block with wings. And then we've got Dinobot Island, we've got Trypticon, the Dino Cassettes, the Dinoforce. Who loves the Dinoforce? Yeah. The Dinoforce are, I'm going to say this is controversial, the best dinosaur Transformers because they're the T-Rex with a hat on. And the Dino Cassettes, and also Skylinks if you're very generous. So, we all grew up with this, and this was the idea that this is what dinosaurs are like, this is how science is. The thing is, even in the 1980s, this was an outdated concept. So, missing a slide, I think. So, oh, no, it's just out of order. So, in the in the 1970s, this idea was already out of date. So this is a piece of art by a fellow called Robert Bakker. He's very, very well known in paleo circles, and this was a dinosaur portrayed as a fast, quick, agile creature. These two books came out in the same period, Dinosaur Heresies and Hot-Blooded Dinosaurs. They revealed they discussed the idea that dinosaurs were warm-blooded, active animals, probably a lot more agile and intelligent than we thought. This is a fossil of Archaeopteryx. So this is a dinosaur, it birds a dinosaur, so if you saw a crow today, you saw a dinosaur, you just have to accept it. But this fossil has been known since the 1800s, and the only reason it was ever said it was a bird is because it had feathers and a wing. Or at least, well, not the only reason, but certainly like one of the big reasons. This is an art piece called Laelaps, and this was drawn in the 1800s as well. Even then, they were agile. It wasn't until you start getting to really massive creatures that this idea of them being big and dumb popularized. But even Jurassic Park, like 1988, I want to say that came out, and they're like one of the big themes of the Jurassic Park book is that these are very bird-like, very agile, warm-blooded creatures. There's a line in there by Dr. Wu who says, like, really we should be thinking of them as scaly birds, not like lizards. So we all thought, go back a sec, we all thought this was the way things were. They make too much noise. But fundamentally, that's really what was going on in the sciences. So, 1990s, we had the Jurassic Park effect. This is a real thing, you can find it in research papers. And it is the idea that Jurassic Park came out and changed the game. This became the normal standard of what these animals look like. Velociraptor became a superstar. None of you had heard about it before the summer of 1993. Do not tell me otherwise, I won't believe you. Rexy, of course, everyone loves Rexy. If you don't love Rexy, go away. The big Brachiosaurus, like these were suddenly like agile, like the idea of this thing opening a door, got in people's minds, everything like that. The Jurassic Park effect is the term for something where the amount of research exploded after this film because the amount of funding exploded. Suddenly this was popular. Suddenly universities were able to draw in funding, draw in interest by saying, look, we're doing dinosaurs again. The number of people who started getting into the science as well went up significantly because they got fired by the movie. So, which is kind of hilarious when you look at some things later on. Started seeing this in things like artwork. This was by Todd Marshall. That's Giganotosaurus. At the time, it was considered the biggest theropod dinosaur, biggest carnivore. T-Rex has taken that back, by the way. T-Rex is again the biggest, certainly the heaviest. Dinosaur artwork became much more dynamic. This was the first, officially, this is a dinosaur with feathers described in the 1990s. I do not remember its name, but... is it Sinosauropteryx? Oh, I'll take your word for it. But, obviously, sadly this is the Beast era. Beast era kicked off. Kenner, they wanted to do Beast, they wanted to revitalize things. They decided, because of the Jurassic Park effect, to tie in much more closely to these kind of designs. Like, Megatron is a weird-looking dinosaur, but he has that Jurassic Park outline to him. It gets better with the Transmetal, which is a better design. We all need to accept that as well. He was originally a crocodile, but they basically got inspired by doing King Kong, so we ended up with a gorilla and a T-Rex. Dinobot has webbed fingers for some bizarre reason I've never figured out. But he, of course, was based very heavily off the Jurassic Park Raptor. He's in this because of Jurassic Park. Transmetal 2 Dinobot, weirdly more accurate in some ways. And Pterosaur, because Pterosaur, no one cares about Pterosaur. Don't lie to me, no one cares about Pterosaur. But over in Japan, we had the Beast Wars Neo line, and we had Beast Wars Seconds, we had Thrustor, who of course was a retool of Dinobot, and we've got Gigastorm, who was a mild retool repaint of Trypticon. The Beast Wars Neo line with Beast Wars Neo Predacons is where it went kind of crazy. We got Magmatron, who's three fairly inaccurate animals, but then we've got Tricerodon and Killer Punch, who are really well done. Their designs actually stand up today. I think Tricerodon's honestly one of the best articulated Triceratops figures you could get until the Beast of the Mesozoic line came out. Saberback was a really big improvement. You wouldn't really, if you didn't see the plates, you wouldn't realize him and Snarl were supposed to be the same thing. Bazooka was cool. Bazooka was weird because he was squatting, but it was cool. Hardhead. And this one was my favorite. This is the only Movie Slash doesn't count because that's not feathers. This is the only feathered dinosaur toy you can get, Arcadus and Airraptor. And actually he is based off of a very famous piece of paleo art from, I want to say either the late 1800s or the early 1900s. I had the reference there and I lost it. So, but if you grew up in the 80s, you saw this color scheme in Archaeopteryx a lot. So, as you can see, basically, we were getting more scientifically advanced and Transformers are following that pattern. They're more lifelike, they're more realistic. Yeah. Then, 2000s to 2024, we're in the middle of what's called the second dinosaur renaissance. It is going crazy out there. T-Rex became incredibly powerful, incredibly heavy. Its babies were like little speed demons, like it goes crazy. This is a real animal. This is a real animal called Yi. Its name is Yi. It has a wing like a bat, except this isn't a finger. This is an extra bone that nothing else has, that just shoots out of its elbow. This is Gigantoraptor. This is basically a chicken that weighs about 7 tons. Microraptor has 4 wings. Eutyrannus is it's a tyrannosauroid, so it's related to Tyrannosaurus. It's, as far as we know, one of the biggest feathered predators. You might have heard of Therizinosaurus as well, the one with the big long claws. Like, that's basically incredibly, incredibly fluffy. We've also seen, like, really exceptional specimens. This got published a few weeks back. This is a little relative of Triceratops called Psittacosaurus, and if you look here, there is a little mammal mixed in with it. And what seems to be happening, there's been some debate about it already since it came out. Some people are a little dubious. What seems to be happening is they died in a fight. This thing was maybe ill, whatever, and then this little mammal came along and started trying to eat it. Again, there's some debate because one of the problems with fossils out of Mongolia and China and places like that is that they do get faked because they're exceptionally preserved, but we get lucky sometimes. This one, Oviraptor, you might have heard of, the egg thief, everyone hear that? Turns out it didn't steal eggs. This is actually, it turned out a lot of the fossils we're finding, they're a mother and their nest, or a father and their nest, certainly parents and their nest, because we scanned the eggs and we saw little baby Oviraptors inside. So what we know and what we understand is constantly changing. Spinosaurus, we'll get back to this, but Spinosaurus' design has changed monumentally in the last 10 years, let alone since it was discovered in the early 1900s. Pachycephalosaurus has also changed. We take how they look, how they grow, it's all changing a lot. How smart they are is changing. This came out earlier in the year. Again, one of those slightly debated ones, but it's worth noting here that there's a study suggesting that things like Tyrannosaurus, so raptors would be around here somewhere, not very smart. Tyrannosaurus, according to this anyway, and I do know at least one more researcher who is kind of on board with this, might have been primate level intelligent. So like baboon to chimp kind of thing, but they're also getting bigger. So this is Dreadnoughtus in Jurassic World Dominion. About 60 tons minimum, and this is not an adult, by the way. The specimen we had is not fully grown. There was a new fossil they found of this week, or was it this week or last week, they described it, of a big whale called Perucetus, which is like as big as a blue whale that lived inshore. Very strange. But basically, all these fossils, it's constantly developing. We're in the most dynamic period ever for paleo studies. Media as well has changed a lot. Jurassic World kicked off a big kick in this. We've got lots of stuff in the works. Prehistoric Planet was the big documentary recently. A friend of mine worked on that. I'd say he's a night guy, but he's not here, so I don't have to lie. 65, I'm including it because it's notable. I'm not including it because you should ever watch it because it is both a terrible dinosaur movie and just a terrible film. And Primal, which I would argue is the best television show made in the last 3 decades. So, basic paleo media is kicking off. Even here, like behavior, we've got some animals giving birth to live young that we never knew about. New studies showing parental behavior in Pteranodon. While also there's now evidence that some little flappy pterosaur things, they were born being able to fly within an hour, which nothing else on Earth can do. Even something as simple as T-Rex, did it have lips? That was a big thing in media there for about a month. Transformers, though, were following a different pattern. Between 2000 and 2010, it was a bit mixed. First of all, we had what I call the filling the shells period. So, lots of repaints, lots of retools, very little new. So the Armada Dinobots, the Beast Machine Predacons, Skydive, who's in there for some reason in the middle of it all. And then towards the tail end of that, you had a couple of new figures in these two from Cybertron, whose name escapes me, the Godzilla-esque Terracon and the Energon Dinobots that were originally meant for Universe but never got released. But they were never like anything major, you know, there were a lot of line fillers. Media-wise, the big thing at the time for dinosaurs was the comics, which, as I said, was part of the big 80s nostalgia boom. We all remember that. Dreamwave, He-Man, Master of the Universe, Thundercats, they were all getting new media then. Here, it was straight translation. So these are Dreamwave and Devil's Due, and apart from War Within, which I have mixed feelings about because I hate those teeth they give Grimlock. They were terrible, Chris. They were terrible. Yeah. These are very much classic designs. Dreamwave Duck, which means they were even chunkier. Very little change. In the middle of all this, though, we got the IDW bots, which are still controversial to this day, and you all need to accept this. They're the best designs the Dinobots have ever had, in both modes. So, very Jurassic Park inspired still, like Grimlock is straight up a Jurassic Park T-Rex. But, you know, I've spoken to Nick about these over the years, and he did research into different things, like the fact Sludge might have had cheeks, something simple like that, but just how Swoop is standing. Like, that's realistic. These are what real animals look like. He even changed the species of Sludge to a Saltosaurus because it was more in scale with what he wanted. But that also resulted in some pretty dynamic changes to the robot modes. I think all of these are a bit controversial. I think Swoop's the most controversial because he just became really skinny because Pteranodon was not a very bulky animal. But yeah, it was this strange little outlier in the middle of this. Toy-wise, not a lot of representation. Two big ones would be the Classics Grimlock, which tried. It tried, didn't succeed, but it did try. And Masterpiece Grimlock, who I have a signed copy from Greg Berger of, was for the time very, very important. It was a hybrid design. It's not the toy, it's not the cartoon, it's a mix of both. And I will get to later in more annoyance. But for the time, a great toy, 08, I think that was. I know it's MP08, but I think it actually came out around then. There we go. And then we had the animated Dinobots, who were, this was the first case of the Dinobots being stylized, properly, like intentionally. We're trying to reference G1, but we're stylizing it, we're adding our own spin in it. I really like these. Again, Swoop, much more in line with what an actual Pteranodon would be built like. Grimlock, again, in show, more than in toy, more realistic. And Snarl Slug, again, pretty good design. And Dinopope in the middle of it all as well, because for some reason we need the Dinopope. One thing I will say about that, I like the Japanese version because then it's a Dinosaurus character. However, handsome man there in the corner. We had a little bit of a problem in the 2010-2012 era because there was a bit of brand synergy going on. Obviously, if you actually want to see this in detail, check out Chris's Basics video on it. He actually knows what he's talking about, I don't. But Hasbro was changing things up, and at the same time, the War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron game was developing, and based on some interviews, High Moon Studios basically are the reasons the Dinobots stuck around for a while. According to some things, the game director, Matt Teacher, said that in interviews he was told they weren't planning to do the Dinobots, they were going to work them out of the different medias. Here it was like, they will not be in any Transformers games, they will not be in Transformers anything, they are finished. That was a quote from an interview then. Matt Teacher, however, rode a certain horse into battle, which he defined frequently as fire-breathing space T-Rex. So he wasn't having any of it. He came up with a new origin for the Dinobots, and he managed to work them in. So that means two things. One, Matt Teacher is a saint. He is a good man, a kind man, and a decent man, and these were still probably the best Transformers games we're ever going to get. And the Dinobots got severely upgraded. They became very stylized, a mix of classic with realism. I think Snarl's probably the most dramatic there, like with the upright tail, the long neck, the pointed head, but very, very stylized. Like very, very G1, very stylized. In-game, very different transformations, how they work, everything like that. These were really cool designs, really, really cool designs, and it set the stage for the next little era, which is sort of 2012, 2017, stylization. So, IDW kept its Dinobots, brought in Triptychon. Rescue Bots brought in the Dinobots by basically hybridizing dinosaurs with cars and trucks and stuff like that, which I always thought was a cool thing. RID 2015 went more the kaiju route. Grimlock is obviously very based on kind of Godzilla. That's Slog, and he was just kind of in gears given drugs. And then we've got the movie Dinobots who say what you want, the visual is cool. The visual of a T-Rex with giant horns is cool. The execution is something else. But, so, again, very, very stylized design. This was a case where there was a lot more broad creativity in the scope of things. Lots of good toys come out of this. I can't list them all, but however, at the same time, Jurassic World caused a bit of kerfuffle that is still going on today. Please do not tweet or X, or whatever people say these days, the words Jurassic World followed by like or enjoyed. Because you don't have to be tweeting or at anyone, they will find you. They will always find you. For the last years, there's been big debates about the fact that Jurassic Park was very revolutionary for the time, but as I've mentioned, the times have moved on. And whatever you want to say about maintaining film continuity, these do not look like velociraptors. They just don't. So one of the big debates is, what's the role? How accurate should these movies aiming to be? Dominion actually aimed to bring in a lot more accuracy. Whether it failed or succeeded is up to interpretation, and how good the movie was, again, up to interpretation. But things like 65, on the other hand, were smoking something, but they shouldn't have been doing it. It was wrong. Why dinosaurs? These are real articles. I didn't make these titles up. These are like full-on debates that are going on about basically Jurassic World, like the Indominus Rex, and that is either the best monster movie in years, or movie monster in years, or it's just another lazy dinosaurs or dragons thing. Like it's beyond controversial. Like the Giganotosaurus from the Minion one, very, very controversial for how it's designed. And yet in some media, like comics especially, dinosaurs are going more accurate. This was when they thought T-Rex was very fluffy, so this was accurate. Nowadays we don't actually think it was that fluffy. Remember Spinosaurus? I said it went through a few redesigns recently. That 2021 is out of date, by the way, because it happened again this year. But for context, these are all, at some point or another, suggestions on how this animal looked. Either in media, in toys, in science. I knew the guy who came up with this one, that it was like this four-legged crocodile thing. He was my supervisor in uni. This is made up, by the way. This was specifically made up to be a cryptid of just like Spinosaurus won't stop. So here's the what if Spinosaurus was a walrus. The design just wouldn't, like, it's constantly being updated, what this animal looks like, which means paleo media can't keep up with it. Anything that features Spinosaurus now was made within the last 2 or 3 years, it is out of date. Transformers, on the other hand, again, this is one of those things where it's opinion-based, has kind of moved into 2 routes. Where the money is G1. What I said, they went for brand synergy again, and what they did was basically, Generation 1 is forefront. The higher budget toys, higher engineered, more media, the general, buy yourself a Hallmark Christmas ornament thing, it's Generation 1, sometimes it's movie. Lower budget and lower market numbers or stuff like that usually means more stylization. You've got evergreen design, those kind of like, will we go for, these is not the new standard? No, not really. Cyberverse, Earthspark, Flame Toy, stuff like that, they're all going more stylized. Usually either they're very, very high end or they're cheaper. We're starting to see a little bit of a change going on. We're starting to see like at least non-Generation 1 designs move into the Generations line. But in general, again, you've got your like big push. These are the ones that matter. And these are cool, but did anyone here try like Earthspark Megatron as a character? Did anyone try to buy the toy and was very disappointed by how tiny his head was? Yeah? Or how cheap it felt? And then, was anyone really sick of seeing the Earthrise Siege Megatron 4 million times? But would you concede it's a better figure? Yeah. So that's where the budget went one way, but the design is going on. So, with the Dinobots, I had this whole idea came from the fact in 2017, whatever it was, I was in Smith's and I was looking around. On one side I had Power of the Prime Dinobots, and the other I had the Mattel Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom line. And whatever about these being inaccurate, That's the outline of a dinosaur, as seen through the eyes of a child born in the last 20 years. What are these? That's what? So a friend of mine described them once as potatoes with legs. Apart from the fact these are bad toys. We all have to accept that as well. Volcanicus did not work well here. The only Volcanicus that is good doesn't have a toy that's decent, and that's a Cyberverse design. Which I'm still mad about, by the way. But these are not what animals look like. Yet, that G1 synergy, that G1 push is going on, which means that's all we're getting. We've got, like I said, we've got these small, lower budget ones in the corner here that are the more stylized. Even to that, Earthspark Grimlock is just G1 Grimlock leaning over. It's an improvement, but it is just G1 Grimlock leans over and turns into IDW Grimlock. Core Class, Authentics, Generation Studio Series, Studio Super 7, which I saw a picture of today. These things are real and are coming out. It's only been 500 years. Even the new Dinobots, they're all hitting this very limited, very restrictive G1 aesthetic. In particular, with Grimlock, for some reason, unfathomable reason to me, they're all Masterpiece Grimlock. Whatever about the robot mode being redone, Masterpiece, Masterpiece. You'll frequently see little bits of merchandising that are based off the Masterpiece Grimlock, which is very strange to me. But, and then you got Kingdom in the corner, just look, vaguely realistic, although I like this toy, they didn't stand like that. That's what we call snapping their wing in half and then telling them to walk. As I said, I kind of developed a love-hate relationship with MP Grimlock after this because I'm sick of seeing it. Especially when, like I said, you've got really fun designs like these that do not get high-quality toys, or sometimes don't get any toy. Third party, it's not much better. In fact, some ways it's worse. Masterpiece, 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 Masterpiece. Very G1. Masterpiece style. G1 Masterpiece, G1 Masterpiece, and then this corner, which I call the corner of hope. Which are Planet X's, two Planet X's, Mastermind was supposed to do one as well, they never did. And the Iron Factory Dai Shogun Grimlock, which I am desperate for, because it is a Grimlock with a samurai sword, and he's a T-Rex with a helmet on. Even G-Creation, Fans Toys rather, and G-Creation, they both stylized it a little, but it's still locked in that. And apart from the fact that that's not what a dinosaur looks like, there's lots of other reasons. These are my favorites this year. These are the Zoids. These are the Kang Toys Dinobots that are coming out. They're very stylized, but Swoop is standing a bit like a pterosaur would stand. They didn't bend this way. They bent a different way, but they are the outline's there. Grimlock's good, Scorn's good, Snarl is very, very good. Slug's good, Sludge is good, I really like those. But the reason this bugs me, well, there's a few. Basically, it's not just that I want more accurate designs, I want better dinosaur designs. I want better looking toys, because as much as I love it, and as much as I love the nostalgia of it, I don't think doing a stumpy-tailed Grimlock is really that attractive anymore. One of the reasons I'm actually annoyed at MP Grimlock is because of how the transformation works, the tail is always really short, rather than that big swooping tail he has in the show. We don't get original transformations really with them. They're all variations on the theme. One of the most common things I've seen people say is, a Grimlock toy transforms one way and it's a great transformation. It is, but you've done it now for 30-something years. Say what you want about the quality. The Earthspark Deluxe and the Cyberverse Deluxe, a new transformation out of that toy, which is well engineered. The materials fought it, but it was well engineered. And different species, if we're locked in on these same 5 very nostalgic G1 designs, you're just getting the same 5 animals over and over and over. And occasionally, here's a Ankylosaurus, here's a Spinosaurus. It's I think you could do a lot more aesthetically, and there's, like I said, there's some crazy stuff out there. Google horned dinosaurs found in the last 10 years. You will not believe some of the things that they found. So, this is me kind of if I was to fix this, if I was to go into Hasbro and kick him out the door and throw him out the window, I mean, that meme with the guy sitting on the table and they said we need to fix something. What if we made it better? And they'd throw him out the window? Yeah, that was me. So, Grimlock, I don't think you could change Grimlock species. It has to be T-Rex. This is the Prehistoric Planet one, he's really chunky, really powerful, and that's what it gives you more engineering to use for transformation, more body mass, more engineering, gives you a better silhouette. I think it's really good. There's a bit of art by a fella, something Spino on Twitter.
That's it,
Nathan Spino. He did a Grimlock kind of based off this. The design was excellent. He did a comic with it with Shockwave as well. He turned into a Spinosaurus. Swoop, I would change species completely. This is Quetzalcoatlus. One of the things I've always liked about Swoop is that Swoop is supposed to be the big friendly one. I get like the idea of like Swoop is this friendly, nice person, except they've got this horrific mode that people are really put off with because for some reason Cybertronians are really turned off by blocks with beaks. But this is an animal the size of a giraffe that has a head almost as long as its neck that went around spearing small dinosaurs in the back and swallowing them whole. Like, now imagine it's trying to come up to you and ask you out for a pint. So, why not have Swoop turn into something huge, gangly, really distinct, but that's all like, plays into that character, like, listen, I realize I look weird, but I'm actually pretty approachable. Kind of like me. Slug, like I said, horned dinosaurs, ceratopsians, there's loads of variety. This is one of my favorites, Pachyrhinosaurus from the Beast of Mesozoic toy line. I think it'd be cool to change species. If you're going to stick him with a Triceratops, Triceratops got weirder than you think as well. This is a screenshot from Prehistoric Planet based off a real specimen where the horns are basically the entire body length. They're enormous. So like, why not go crazy? Snarl, just make him look like a Stegosaurus, please. You don't have to change him. You don't have to change species. He doesn't have to be a super spiky. Just make him look like anything other than that. What is wrong with his head? Why is his head that way? Sludge, again, make him a bit smaller, maybe. This is an animal called, what's it called again? Shoniosaurus? No, not Shoniosaurus. John, thank you. And it's got a big tail club, which I've always liked. But it's not huge, so it'll be kind of in scale. Or go crazy. This is another one called Mamenchisaurus, which is basically, think Brachiosaurus, where the neck is about 3 times as long and bent more forward without the big upright stance. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous looking animal, but it's so cool, and I think, like, you just turn that neck into a big, like, pole club or something like that. And Paddles. Paddles is too pure for this world. He is a hero, and none of you appreciate him enough. So everyone cheer for Paddles. Generic Plesiosaurid of some kind. I think it's supposed to be Elasmosaurus based in the neck, but don't quote me. So yeah, anyway, I don't know if I went fast or slow through this. Knowing me, probably too fast, but grab the images off of TF-Wiki, Cybertron, TFW, bunch of Google images. Yeah, so if you want to follow me, I'm on, well, please don't, that's stalking. But if you want to find me online, I'm on Twitter or X. Twitter, it's just Twitter. Irish Paleo, that's where I put my paleo things. There's also Moonbase 2 Twitter, but that's vaguely devolved into just me saying whatever nerdy thing is in my head at the time, which is mostly complaining about Kamen Rider and Godzilla these days. Paleo games, we've got this book coming out, Dr. Drolin's Dictionary of Dinosaurs. It is a 5th edition D&D supplement, but it can be adapted into basically any TTRPG you can think of. I mostly worked on the research and consultancy side of things. I play D&D, but I do not know enough about how to actually develop a stat block. But this is coming out in December. We had a really stupidly successful Kickstarter. We did not expect it to take off. But if you go to www.paleogames.com, we're still taking pre-orders for the book, at least the book and the PDF copy. And we're due to have that out in December. And we're also a Kickstarter that might release on time, which I think is a first. And yeah, so that's me. I don't know if we've got time for questions, but if we do, you're free to ask any you'd like.
We certainly do. So have a round of applause for Mike, please. We have about 20 minutes to go, so if you would like, if you've got any questions, whether to do, yeah, okay, we've got a little game, no problem. I don't need to hide them up. So yeah, questions?
I can't, all I can see is lights, so.
Hello. Way back.
Hello.
if you could pick one dinosaur to add in as like an ongoing character as part of the Dinobots, which dinosaur would you pick? And would it be because you thought that would lend itself well to a transformation, or would it be a personal favourite?
I wouldn't put my personal favourite, because that's probably Pachyrhinosaurus. Like I said, I'd maybe turn Slug into that, because I think if you're doing the Dinobots as like, here's a marketable character, you have to stick with different species. They have to look distinct. Like, a lot of people would say, like, an Ankylosaurus or something like that. I would go with Therizinosaurus, the one with the big one with the claws, because like, one, that looks cool. Two, really different looking, really distinct. I think you could get some pretty cool transformations out of it as well. And yeah, like, I just like the idea of something that's really different. Because like, Ankylosaurus has done everything. Like, it's cool, but it's been done. Like, Therizinosaurus, I don't think I've ever seen a robot toy of one. Ever. And I've looked. Yeah, anything else? Yeah, I see a hand over there.
Yeah, can I ask how we know the continents were all joined together and what the climate was like during that time? How do we know all that stuff?
Oh, paleoclimatology. I'm not a paleoclimatologist, so I can only tell you so much. Continent, some of it is actually fossils. So there's a continuity of fossils in certain areas. So South American fossils are largely similar to North African fossils from the Cretaceous. There's Spinosaurus stuff, there's Hadrosaurid stuff, there's big long-necked sauropods, big titanosaurs and stuff like that. The idea of, like, some people often credit the idea to basically looking at a map and noticing that if you put South America and Africa together, they kind of join up. But you can see continuity in the rocks, the different types of rocks. Some actual layers of rocks seem like they got split down the middle and they just basically got moved over. Yeah, climate in a very, very simple way, but there's a lot of geological evidence to support it. Same with climate. So the basic rule of environments when it comes to rocks. So you know how rocks are laid down in layers going up? The idea is that if it's a layer, say a layer here and a layer here, this layer will have been next to this layer in real life. So the environment here will have been next to the one below it. So if you've got something that was laid down, you've got seeds, or you've got certain rock types that show it was laid down in kind of a grassy area, and then underneath there's something that looks like freshwater fossils, freshwater rock pattern and stuff like that. Then you can say like, oh, bit of grass, bit of lake, bit of water, probably a lake. Fossils are really, some fossils are actually so good for identifying rock types that it doesn't happen much with vertebrates, but with shelly fossils and stuff like that, they're named after the fossils that are included in them. So yeah, very, very simple way of putting it there, because I went for taxonomy, which is naming stuff, because I'm lazy, rather than something that requires actual skill. But yeah, so it's in the rock. Basically, the answer is always it's in the rocks. So, anyone else?
Hi, thank you so much for your talk. I was just wondering, you were saying that our knowledge of dinosaurs is constantly progressing, right? We constantly learn new things. So I was wondering if you could recommend some sources, maybe books or websites or channels that people who want to, well, stay up with science can check out.
Books and stuff, Rise and Fall of Dinosaurs by Steve Brusatte is a very good overview one. When it comes to like YouTube channels, there's Everything Dinosaur, All Your Dinosaurs Are Wrong is another good one. If you want kind of like constant, these guys are updating it every 5 seconds because they are obsessed with this topic. Ted Zoo is probably your best one. Darren Naish, absolute lunatic, but a lovely lunatic. But he is one of the best sources. He does a lot of work on Twitter, and he's got his own website and his own podcast. Dave Hone as well, David Hone, if you can track him down in various social medias. And if you just want like various newses and stuff, Tom Holtz is another really good one because he retweets and messages everything. But that's kind of, you have to kind of, with that, it's like find the really active paleo people on Twitter and follow. Get involved in paleo Twitter full stop, and you will have nightmares, but it will like follow a pattern you recognize. Yep.
With some of the forms that are very similar to each other, because you haven't got like a lot of people using DNA now with modern day animals.
Yeah.
And yet some animals have had convergent evolution. Is there any evidence that some dinosaurs that look very similar are not actually related, but are the product of convergent evolution? Because nature reuses a thing that works.
Yeah, plenty, to be honest. So you know how most big carnivorous dinosaurs broadly look alike.
Yeah.
Many of them are very, 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 very distantly related to each other. And it's just like, if you're a big predator, you need a big head, you need sharp teeth, you need legs to move.
Yeah.
Everyone knows the thing about crocodiles being ancient and unchanging?
Yeah.
That's a total lie.
Oh.
It's just like the crocodiles we have now are both descended from an aquatic, big carnivore species that hunted in like a lot of like either large prey or fish. Some crocodiles used to run around, they used to be herbivorous crocodiles, they used to be horsey crocodiles, like convergent evolution is so, it's everywhere in fossils.
Right.
Yeah?
I was just going to say, if Hasbro ever made a movie for just the Dinobots, what would you recommend the title be?
About time? Can we get it right this time, maybe? But I'd be happy if, like, Travis Knight came back and just said we're doing a Grimlock movie, but... Rise of the Beast was the second best Transformers movie, but Bumblebee is still better.
Yeah.
I don't know, it depends on the story, really, because, like, I always like the thing about the Dinobots, it's like, oh, they're good guys, but they keep murdering everyone. So how do we explain how Optimus says, it's fine, it's fine? Like, I always think back to, it was from Maximum Dinobots, and it's just the Dinobots standing around, and then Slug is, like, kicking someone's head around like a football, but it's like, that's not right. That's not right. Yeah, anything else, or anyone else?
Questions?
Yeah?
Am I allowed to ask about recent spoilers as about Phase 2? Am I allowed to ask about recent spoilers like as about Phase 2?
I'm fine, but it kind of depends on the room.
Okay, well, if you haven't watched the last section of Earthspark, please kindly plug your ears if you are sensitive to alt mode spoilers. Thank you.
Yep.
What is your opinion on Jawbreaker's alt mode being not one of the 5 canonical robots, the dinosaurs you always see?
There was a weird controversy about Jawbreaker's alt mode that keeps on getting mentioned in TF Wiki, which I find hilarious. Remember I put the picture up earlier on of Pachycephalosaurus. If I go through this really, really quickly, I might get it up here. Nah, this will be too fun. It might not exist. Basically, it might be a baby of another species. We don't know. There was a bit of research on it in the 2010s that argued that it's basically just a baby whose bones changed a lot once it grew and became more like the adult. Then a bit of research came out that said that was wrong, and a bit of research came out that said that was wrong. And I think at the moment it's kind of 50-50. But it happened with Jawbreaker, it happened with the 2 skeleton ones. Vertebrae, yeah, and the green vertebrae. Dracodon, that's not even a word. But, yeah, so... It sounds better though. So yeah, so like, it's an interesting one. I mean, I'm glad it's not one of the core ones. I think it's a good choice. That's a fun design to do. It looks a little weird in the face, but that's more just stylization. And, as I said, like, get stylized, be weird. Make these things look better than 1985. So yeah, I think it's a good one, a good inclusion. I'd like to see more. And for taking the mick out of it, like I do like Earthspark Grimlock's design. It's just I would have liked it to be better or more in line with my personal preference. I also like the character. I like the idea of doing it that way, but also keep David.
You might have got loads.
The biggest problem with Paddles is that his name does not begin with an S. How do you fix that?
We don't. It's fine. If you want to see someone struggling with that at the moment, look at Don Figueroa's Twitter at the moment, because he keeps on putting up fresh Dinobot designs, and you can see him like, how can I make this an S? How? Just I think one of them is called Saddles. Like, they're not bad designs in all honesty, but Sapaddles.
Well, since we're talking about dinosaurs and Dinobots, what is your opinion on the Beast Within?
So, the panel's over. Nice. We all make mistakes, it's just some of us make much bigger ones. I got the idea behind it. What were they thinking? Why? Just why? That's my kind of Beast Within. Why? Anyone else?
Yeah, got one here.
Yep. Seriously, what were they thinking?
Hello.
Hello.
First of all, really excited for the D&D supplement. I've already kicked back at that.
Oh, thank you.
But, since the other bots have like the T-Rex, the Triceratops, the Stegosaurus, Ankylosaur, and Paddles.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what species would you pick for the Decepticons version of the Dinobots?
See, I'm subversive with that kind of stuff. I always like when Decepticons turn into something that you don't feel threatened by. Like I always like it's like I like the battle chargers as a concept because they're just cars. They're just jeeps. Like they're not they're not a space shuttle that's miraculously rolling down a main road. Like they're so I pick something small. Like Hypsilophodon or something like that. Something small and looks harmless, or like Parasaurolophus with the big pompadour head crest. Like just like, oh, that's cute. It's like a cow. Like, oh, it's a cow. Oh no, it weighs a ton and it's trying to kill me. I'm from the country, that has happened. So I would go that route. I would like make it the least threatening one. Make it like a subversive, like infiltration type thing. If an 8-ton dinosaur can infiltrate. But yeah, that's like just something a bit different, you know? Like, because I think the thing people fall into the trap of is just like, it's another T-Rexy thing. Like Overkill, it's another T-Rexy thing. Just like, do something different.
Okay.
Oh, that would be terrifying. Breaks into like a swarm of them.
Got one over here.
You were mentioning about the whole redesigns for a lot of the Transformers and so on and so on, but what was your actual opinion about Zoids, for example?
Oh, I love Zoids. Love Zoids.
But what would you sort of change? Was that like the perfect designs, or was anything wrong with those? Would you?
I don't. The Gojulus bugs me. That big Godzilla one, but that's more. I just don't like that big boxy head. I think Zoids are an interesting case because they're weirdly grounded in the science. Like, was it 2006 they did the line which is all the skeletons and they were like really semi-realistic. That one, that's something where like it's into the range of so stylized you can't complain. Like, and they're like I said, they're following the basic outlines. Like, I still think the Genobreaker is a good design. It's weird because it's a T-Rex with a pair of crab claws, but it's fun. Like that's the kind of thing I like. The thing with the G1 Dinobots for me is that they're a design from the 1980s when it has been innovated, they keep re-uninnovating it. So that's something that bugs me. Like, you know, Fall of Cybertron. That's not what a T-Rex looks like because that thing has rocket boosters on its back. But it's a T-Rex with rocket boosters. So, I mean, that's a good thing. So, Zoids are cool, basically, and I need more high-end master grade. But
Play lighter is better.
One over here, in the middle, front.
So, you said with more modern understanding of dinosaurs, you get better transformations. Can you unpack that a bit?
well, I don't know if better, but maybe different. Because, like, classic thing with Grimlock is you open up the chest and there's a big empty space. There's nothing going on there. There's no limbs folded up there, there's no extra components to move, and the wings just open up, hangs on the back, and Bob's your uncle. Legs fold out the same way, you click up the chest sometimes, and there's a head. Like, there's no grand head reveal moment with Grimlock. Something I liked about the Cyberverse one is that it was messy, I think, because of the budget of the toy, but there's a lot of innovation with how the legs fold up, how the tails form, stuff like that. I just think, like, I want to see people trying something new. I always want to see a bit of difference. If you're going to, like, if you're going to do 15 Optimus Primes, make them all transform different. That kind of thing. Same thing with Grimlock. If you're doing 15 Grimlocks, make the transformation as much part of the identity of this version of Grimlock.
Okay, with functional innovation, rather
yeah.
than way in particular.
Yeah, like I think having like a big bulky Grimlock means that you have more to do with those kind of innovations. Like you've got more space to use.
Have we got any more questions? We've got time for a couple more.
Is there any good candidate for a real-life dinosaur for IDW strength?
Oh God! Are there any? I've annoyed at you still after that was revealed, and I said, "Oh, what does it look like? Does it look like this?" And this one just said, "I mean, kind of." It didn't, Chris. It didn't look like that.
I don't remember.
I know you don't, but I do. So IDW Strafe. I mean, you could do like a weird conjoined sauropod, I suppose. But I actually liked Strafe as a character. She was good fun. But actually, she'd be good for the Ankylosaurus role, because she's like big, buff, tough lady, and like Ankylosaurus was big and buff and tough and armored and cool. So she'd be my Ankylosaurus, I'd say.
Any more? Oh, Jim's gone. Here we go.
I just want to confirm if I'm understanding what you're saying. So you're saying that they were sort of smarter than we think and speedier. So would it be accurate for me to say that like Brontosaurus is smarter and faster than we thought? Can I like pull you on that?
Brontosaurus, probably a bit smarter than we thought. Probably not faster. Probably a lot slower, because that was bigger than we thought as well. That's one of those ones that's just like, oh no, it's bigger. Also, it's real. Before someone says Brontosaurus is real again. So it's not a Patasaurus. It's now its own thing again.
Patasaurus is also a thing.
Yes. That would be a day and a half of me going on about it, but it's weird and complicated. But
you don't think they lived in water?
No. Like, I mean, I'm sure they moved. Like, there's reasons to go into water, but they didn't need it. That was another idea. It's like they were so big they had to go in water, and then someone did the calculation, and for a Brontosaurus to support itself underwater, it would have to be at such a depth its rib cage would crush. There's some weird ideas about them snorkeling as well, which. But yeah, like some of with the build and bulk, it was less like it was speed. It was being more active. Might be a good way. Again, going back to Prehistoric Planet, they had a really good one of these like classically kind of slow, ponderous, dumb animals, as they're made out to be, and suddenly they're like meeting up in big like creches and fighting for mates and doing things you never see them doing in anything else. So,
because you mentioned eggs, so my understanding of this could be way off, is that dinosaur eggs never got very big. Is that right?
Oh, some are big. Some are melon-sized. We actually have a thing where some of the long-necked ones seem to have been laying them in like a row, like as they were walking. But some, which is really interesting because people talk about like, what does that mean for dinosaur parenting? Like, are you likely to parent an egg that you literally just dropped as you were walking off? Maybe, maybe not. Some were very small, some had soft shells, some had hard shells. They're very, very distinct. And we think lots of different parenting strategies. Some parents dropped them off, some were very involved. Some may have raised their babies up to full adulthood. Some may have like said, okay, here's the car keys, away you go, not my problem now. But
how do you divine that from the rock record?
That's
so fascinating.
Well, I was talking about Pteranodon there, and it's basically how bone grows can be a good sign of like how active something can be. Because if something is growing very, very rapidly, it's probably capable of being independent sooner. So if something can fly after an hour, that doesn't necessarily mean there's no parenting, but it might mean that the parent's less involved. Whereas if something takes 3 weeks to grow and is sitting in a nest the whole time, before it can fly off, it's going to need something to bring it food because it can't physically get it. There's also some, like we found nests with like crushed eggshells that seem to be from babies that were moving around inside the nest. And you find adults with sub-adults and stuff like that. So,
fascinating.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, guys, because it's nearly at 3 o'clock. Can we have a huge final round of applause?